Okie dokie.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Saturday. You'll be listening to this on Saturday. And as I look at my Zoom screen, I've got Ed sitting in front of me. And Ed, you are a sight for sore motherfucking eyes. I don't think I've ever been more happy to see you than I am today. On yesterday's podcast, we had the Trump Humper Jeff, and that was hard. That's hard to do. It's not something I like to do. It reminded me why I hadn't done it for a while, because the guy is just oblivious and he's just so indoctrinated into absolute bullshit. I realized something I've said all along, that you can't change these people's minds, and it was taxing.
No.
It was draining.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but it's true. I was just looking at a new major research study from the Pew Center, right, which is unimpeachable. And they looked at immigration, and of course, all the Republican talking points are simply bullshit, but
Yeah.
they'll never admit that. They won't even look at this research, I'm sure, because they've got, their Tucker Carlsons and other people telling them, oh, we're being invaded and all of this bullshit. And they believe it, but it's not true. It has not been true. The highest illegal immigration we ever had was 2007 when George W. Bush was president. Right. And it's been going down ever since. And just because a lot of people show up doesn't mean they get in, and they don't. They're deported, they're sent back. Some of them are given asylum and so forth, but that's just bullshit. And then this morning we see Trump admitting, and on this released audio from an interview that he conducted with somebody, I forget, one of his cronies, that he realized that there was a problem at the on January 6th, and he considered going down there in person to quell it, but they wouldn't let him. And he's always said that, well, there was no problem. It was really nice, whatever. So Ms. Hutchinson is validated. Everything she said is obviously true, and he keeps doing that to himself. But these people never see it.
No, they never do see it, and they keep leaning on all these bullshit explanations. Like this kid yesterday was talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. And I explained to him, I said, Trump and the FBI had access to this for a year and a half before he was even out of office. You never found anything to pursue at that point. So now after he's out of office and now you're trying to run for re-election, you go back in the archives because you can't find anything else, and you try to resurrect this, and it's just absolute bullshit. And he was trying to tell me what was on the laptop. I go, well, tell me specifically what's on the laptop, and they can never give you specifics.
No.
It's just all distraction, diversion, and rhetoric, and it gets frustrating after a while. But I couldn't do that every day. It would fucking drive me nuts.
I don't understand how anybody can. I'd much rather put out the truth and let smart people realize that, or reinforce the fact, because most of the smart people already know it anyway. But it's nice to be reminded, or maybe we can dig up a fact or two here they haven't heard, or put it in some perspective or something. Right. But it's not worth our time to try to counteract something that they're not going to accept anyway.
And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and you're the first guy to say that, I'm sure. But I think the smartest thing I ever did with regards to Rational Boomer and the podcast is that I block all Trump humpers, and I just deal with people of a like mind. Instead of trying to fight the people that can't comprehend truth and fact, it's better to rally people that are intelligent and have a similar mind, so that we can better stand for the bullshit that's going on in this country.
Me too. I'm all for rational debate, but I've yet to see one from the other side who can actually do that. And I have to admit, I fault Al Gore to a certain extent because he kind of came up with that style of not letting the other guy talk and interrupting and
Yeah.
walking around the stage and that kind of crap. I mean, come on, he knew better. And it didn't serve him well, and it's probably why he's not president, because he came up looking like a friggin' bully. So sorry, Al, you messed up big time.
Well, he was a rich
And
guy
they've
from the
all
time.
copied that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew this guy was going to try to do that, but he didn't really have the tools to do it. It's anyway, we don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about important things of shit that's going on. And every time you come on and every time I do the podcast, there's a lot of shit going on. And what's the one thing that's putting the bee in your bonnet today, Ed?
Well, I touched on that. The Pew Research coming out and saying the immigration stuff is bullshit. That there's like 10.5 million illegal aliens in the country. The trouble is, most of them are employed. They're doing jobs nobody else wants to do.
Right.
They add, I think it's $11 billion in taxes to the U.S. economy that they never realize any benefit from. Right. Trump jacked up our deficit by over $7 billion. They put $11 billion in that easily contradicts that, right? So they are a benefit. No matter what, they're a benefit. We've got, let's see, 12.3 million lawful permanent residents. Those are people on like green cards and work permits. We've got 35.2 million lawful immigrants, and we've got 20.7 million that are naturalized citizens. So you put all that together, maybe a quarter of all immigrants, period, could be construed as illegal. But as I say, most of them are employed. And I would even say all of them are employed, and they are in, doing productive work that adds to the economy. So what's wrong with that? I don't care how many bogus videos they show us or complain about this or that. It's not true. And, there's no border. The border is not open. Sorry.
Well, and I think people have to understand this is what Republicans do. They take little teeny things, they exaggerate it, and they hype the shit out of it because they can't find anything legitimate to argue with the Democrats about Hunter Biden's laptop or the border. The thing with the border is the border's been a problem for decades. There's been no president, no party been able to figure it out completely. What's going on now at the border is not much different than what happened with Donald Trump or Barack Obama. This is an issue that we've got to address. And part of the reasons we can't address it is because we got Republicans obstructing Democrats to do anything about it by putting more people down there and doing more things to help process this shit faster.
Exactly. And there's been legislation lying there for literally years that would address it. But the Republicans, Mitch McConnell won't bring it up in the Senate, and nobody will bring it up in the House until we get both the House and Senate. If the Democrats were able to get both the House and Senate and the presidency, then they could, I guarantee you, they would solve the immigration problem, such as it is, in short order. They would also pass meaningful gun control and get rid of assault weapons. And they would do so many other things. They would institute abortion and women's reproductive health care as a right for everybody federally. Right. So the states can't screw around with it. They make the educational playing field level across the board, and everything else that we need done, we could do with the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Because quite frankly, we can blow off the court. Yeah, we can threaten them with expansion, and they'll back down, just like they did the last time when they were trying to block FDR's proposals. He said, well, great, I'll just back the court, screw you. And they immediately backed down. That's what would happen again. And we could also focus on things like Ginny Thomas and Clarence Thomas and get them out of the way, and whoever else we need to deal with.
Well, given the state of the court and the way it is right now, we've got to do more than threaten them. We actually got to expand the court. We've got to hold these people accountable. And we can't do that until 2024, assuming meaning the Democrats get control of the House and
Right.
Senate. So that's why this particular election is crucial, not only with the president, but on the down ballot too, because we need to get the power back to straighten some really fucked up shit out.
Right. And federal power won't do everything, but it will help. But the DNC needs to start putting money into some of the down ballot races that they don't think are winnable. They are. They proved that. Stacey Abrams proved that by getting out there and getting out the vote in Georgia. That what was a red state is now essentially blue with 2 blue senators, and we can get a governor. We can do whatever we need to do down there if you get out the vote and show people that their vote is going to count, and it won't be gerrymandered and that sort of thing. We got 2 states right now that, even though the Supreme Court's told them to redraw their voting districts, they still haven't done it, I don't believe. And there should be repercussions for that. But we need the power to do that, and that means everybody who is a Democrat or an independent, a rational independent, needs to get out and vote, and just so resoundingly that the Trump fucks are done. Right. Because I mean, look, nothing. There's a Republican, I forget his name, who got on the floor yesterday, and I'm sure you're going to see him in every Democratic campaign ad for the next year, saying, "Show me one thing we've done, one positive thing. Show me, show me." I mean, he was losing his shit there because they've done nothing. Not one positive thing has the Republican Party brought forward. They've done bogus investigations that now Mike Johnson has said, "Screw this impeachment shit. You got no evidence." Right. And, that's out the water. That's gone now. And he's caved and done a continuing resolution, but he's still there. So I'm not sure what that says.
Were you surprised by the fact that he caved and we got this continuing resolution? I wasn't at all surprised. In fact, I predicted he would do it.
Nor was I. I was not surprised at all. And I think that he must be, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this guy is probably a dangerous flake. Yeah. But at least he listened to reason on that. And I believe perhaps, even though I still think he's a dangerous flake, maybe we can eventually get a budget passed. I mean, that should be the minimum. There should be a constitutional amendment that says if the parties cannot produce a budget by May, then the president may institute one. I mean, come on. They get paid a substantial amount of money to go to Washington and do a job. And most of them are spending all their time grandstanding and trying to tear down the other side, which is stupid. Yeah. You get to do that. You get to do that during the election season. You can say any damn thing you want. You can have as many rallies as you want. You can put out as many ads as you want, but keep it out of the Senate. Keep it out of the House. That's not where it belongs. And what's his name? Mark Wayne or whatever.
Mark Wayne Mullins. Yeah.
Yeah, the fisticuffs guy. He should have been expelled from the Senate that day. That day. No questions asked. You're gone. You're out of here because you're a doofus. It goes back. I'm afraid it goes back to Jesse up in Minnesota. Yeah. You get these strong men, these bullies. You get them in there and they think they can do that shit. Well, fuck you, Jesse, and fuck you, Mark Wayne, because you're nothing but a bully and you need your teeth slapped out of your mouth.
Well, what's funny? What's funny is this guy. He's mixed martial arts and he's a smaller stature guy. And it's one thing to, yell at Dr. Fauci and threaten him. But Sean O'Brien is the president of the fucking Teamsters. That's the last motherfucker I want to fight, is an Irish guy from Massachusetts who's over 6 feet tall and stomps people into a mud hole for a fucking living.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would like to have seen that fight,
I
quite
would
frankly,
too. I would
because
too.
all of these guys, they're what I call gym magicians. They're just, they think they're all pumped up because they can walk a treadmill, and they can have these fake bouts with people and so forth. But you put them up against a real guy that's been lifting boxes his whole life. Now he weighs 350 pounds of muscle and stands 6'4" or whatever. He's going to cream you. I don't care what you do. He's going to cream you, and I'd
And
love to see it.
if he doesn't cream you because he's head of the Teamsters, he's probably connected too. If you cream
I
him,
got a guy. I got a guy.
I got a guy. He's probably got a bunch of
Yes.
guys, and Mark Wayne Mullins wouldn't make it
Yeah.
through the day. You talked about expelling him. They are in fact looking at expelling George Santos now, finally.
Yeah.
And did you hear about
Finally.
the stuff that came out? There was some misappropriations of funds. He was using uh,
Yeah.
his campaign debit card to get Botox, uh, buy OnlyFans, go to Sephora, makeup. This guy is a dumb
Yeah.
motherfucker. Talk about leaving a paper trail.
What can I tell you? I mean, it's like he's wanting to get locked up. I can't. I'm not even sure this guy's an American citizen, to be honest with you.
True, true. I think the guy is genuinely mentally ill to a high degree.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just fucking nuts. I mean, if they're willing
Yeah. At
to,
first, his mother is dead, and then his mother was killed on 9/11.
and she was in the Holocaust. Uh,
Anyway,
yeah, she's like, where's
right.
Waldo? Uh, so what do you think
Unless he
happens?
got around.
Yeah, what do you think happens? They expel him. They're probably going to vote on it. They don't like this guy so much. They're willing to diminish their margin, the majority. But I think he's gone within a couple
Yeah.
of weeks, no question.
I certainly hope so. If not, if they want to, I would say if they want to retain any semblance of propriety, or that they have any sort of integrity, uh, they have to get rid of him. But it's too late because they're not going to have that reputation. They're going to be looked at that people who will do anything that's expedient to retain power or take power, or fulfill the mission that their oligarch masters have given them, is what it comes down to.
Right, exactly. In the New York civil trial, Judge Engoron had a gag order on him, a limited gag order on Donald Trump. And now apparently that's on pause while he's
Yeah.
appealing that. People are all upset about that. How about you?
Not at all. Number one, I mean, Trump's going to find a way to have some surrogate get it out there or something anyway. Yeah. I think what the judge is doing is removing any sort of obstacle that would give Trump a leg up to appeal. That it wasn't fair somehow, that he was not able to plead his case, whatever it may be. I think that's all it's about, and I do think that it'll be reinstated at some point. But you see what's going on down in Georgia, where I think it's Misty, what's her name's lawyer, is the one that released that testimony.
Right.
We knew that. We knew it was going to be from that side. We knew it wasn't going to be from the good guys. It would be from the bad guys, seeking to dilute that testimony, or perhaps even to intimidate other witnesses to say, "Oh, your testimony is going to get out there because we'll see to it," and then the bad guys will come and get you. That's what it's all about. And I really think there should be some serious repercussions for that. Apparently, it's not illegal in Georgia, but I think the judge can now say that if this happens again, there will be repercussions, whatever they may be. The judges do have some sort of leeway. When it comes to Republicans and it comes to conservatives in general, they're always going to push the envelope. They're always going to go as far as they possibly can, and then they'll go beyond what
Right,
is right and decent and even legal,
right.
as we have seen with every Republican president. I mean, Reagan should have been in prison, certainly.
Yeah.
George W. Bush did some things that could have gotten most of his administration, if not him, locked up, and should have. And Trump too. So every Republican administration, including Reagan and since, has had some sort of really, what's the word I want, illegal activity going on that they thought they could get away with, and to a certain extent they did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right about the releasing of those videos. It's technically not illegal, but Fani Willis asked for a protective order. She got the protective order. Now, if anything's released, presumably there'll be some repercussions over it. And like you say, I don't know what that is. Uh, but I got to be honest. There's a couple of things about that. First of all, releasing those videos didn't help Donald Trump at all.
Not at all.
It just implicated him more. But even more than that, is that big a deal? Because this testimony is going to come up in court, and in Georgia, we know it's going to be televised. So that information is going to come out eventually anyway. And people will say, well, he just heard this from this. I'm guessing Fani Willis has some corroborating evidence that go hand in hand with those testimonies. That just isn't the final answer.
Oh, I'm sure that's the case. I still think that the major reason for doing it was to, number one, pollute the jury pool, or to say, to dilute the impact of it so that you see it before the trial, so it's old hat when the trial comes up.
Yeah.
And also to say to potential witnesses that haven't turned yet, well, look, these people turned, and now they're labeled forever, and sooner or later somebody's come up behind them with a hammer and do them in. Because I do think that's an implicit threat, and I do tie that to Mark Wayne and to Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I'm sure you saw Trump the other day describing Nancy Pelosi as a deranged lunatic, and then making aspersions about her husband, which, quite frankly,
that's some sick shit.
It is some very sick shit. And I don't understand how Trump has gone this long without getting punched out. I just really don't. And
I'm surprised that I know it's troubling to say this, but with as volatile as a country we have right now, I'm surprised there haven't been attempts on his life.
Well, what it comes down to, I think, is that we don't do that. And by we, I mean the left, I mean liberals and so forth.
Right.
I can't think of an assassin who was a liberal.
No, that's a good point.
I can't think of a mass shooter who was a liberal. They try to claim it sometimes, but we generally try to deal with things in a straightforward manner at the ballot box or in the courtroom, whereas the right wing, that's part of what defines the right wing, from Hitler to Erdogan to pick one.
See, the thing is, I'm not even thinking a Democrat would do it. I mean, once the moment Donald Trump becomes detrimental to the Republican Party, and he certainly is there, at least in the minds of some people with money and power. If something like that were to happen, I think it would come from the right side, not the left side, because he's gumming up everything.
You're probably right.
He's gumming everything up for the Republicans.
Well, it all comes back to the money, man. It all comes back to the big guys that we don't hear about so much. I mean, who'd heard of Mr. Crow or what's his name before
Harlan Crow and
Harlan Crow, but before Clarence Thomas affair, who'd even heard of this guy? And yet here he is bankrolling the Federalist Society and all these other places, and we don't know about these people because the news media doesn't know about them or chooses not to, afraid of lawsuits or whatever the problem is. But these are the guys calling the shots. And all it will take is one of them to get disgusted with Trump, and then you might see something happen.
What about the realization that we heard from Fani Willis that she believed this court case would take longer and go beyond the election? I know a lot of people are upset about that. I'm not so concerned about it. I'm not even convinced that that's true. But what did you think when you first heard her say that?
I wasn't surprised. I was slightly disappointed. I'd love to see this end because, quite frankly, if I have to listen to Donald Trump speak one more time, I may just lose my guts because
Yeah.
it is that triggering to me when I hear him, when I see him, and not because of him directly, but because I know that there are other people who are seeing him and going, "Oh, he's just like Jesus."
Yeah. It's amazing to me after talking to this guy yesterday. It's amazing to me how people are so hoodwinked. I mean, they're so bought into it. You know, I was talking about the cult aspect, and of course, this guy it doesn't believe in a cult thing, but it goes to the fact that these people are in love with this deity of theirs, Donald Trump, and none of us are in love with Joe Biden. He's kind of a means to
No.
an end. He's not our Lord and Savior. He's not our champion. He's what we need right at the moment, you know. And it's a vast difference between how Democrats feel about their politicians as opposed to Republicans. And the way Republicans think about it is a fucking sickness.
Oh, it is. I mean, I see these really fringe things that a certain amount of the cult believe. There's a minister who's traced Trump's bloodline back to Jesus. Okay, and
Wow.
there's another guy who thinks Mike Lindell is actually JFK Jr. in
I know.
disguise. You know, so stuff I can't even think of. They passionately believe.
JFK Jr. back in the day was was bestowed an honor of being the sexiest man alive on one particular year. If that's how the sexiest man alive ends up looking, Mike Lindell, please,
Yeah.
motherfucker. It's just it absolutely is a mental illness that we're experiencing with some of these hardcore Trump humpers, like the guy I talked to yesterday, the people I hear from on the podcast and TikTok. I don't think there's any way to fix that. All we have to do is
No.
all we can really do is change the minds of some people that are somewhat reasonable and just let the other fuckers sink because we're not going to change their minds.
Well, I'm sure you remember, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so forth, you'd see the cartoons of the guy with the sign, the end is near,
Right,
raving on
right,
the town square and so forth. And we realized there were people like that among us,
right.
but they were fairly easy to spot, and they were usually raving, and nobody paid much attention to them except maybe to chuckle in passing or even feel sorry for them. But we just didn't know how many there were
No,
who going about their daily lives who were susceptible to being deluded. I mean, thoroughly deluded by charlatans. And I mean, I think it started with Amway, to be quite frank. Talk about diluting and cults. I mean, and multi-level marketing of any kind, when you get it right down to it, is nothing
right.
but a cult activity. And these guys, it's kind of grown from that. And then you toss in the moral majority and all of these guys, and, the televangelist, and gradually it all snowballs. A few more flakes get added to the ball, until you got something really dangerous rolling downhill at you.
I think we have a faction of people in this country that are insecure and not too bright and feel like their only way to get strength is to be part of some group. And parts of
Absolutely.
groups like the Trumplafucks or Amway or whatever, they'll accept anybody. They'll accept anybody as long as they buy into the bullshit and push forward the bullshit. So
buy into being the thing. Amway,
right,
it's bucks.
right.
The televangelists, it's bucks. The Republican Party, it's bucks.
Yeah, it's all about money, and that's the sad thing, that people who probably don't have extra amounts of money are the ones that get sucked into it. I mean, I've heard televangelists say, if you have to give me your last $10, it will come back tenfold to you.
Yeah,
And people believe this shit. And you would
yeah.
think time after time, when it doesn't happen, they'd say, oh, okay, this is a fucker liar. But they just dig down deeper. They have to believe. They're that insecure and that unsure of themselves that they need a leader, some kind of champion, to take them to the promised land, even though it never happens.
Yeah, and you'd think it would be counterproductive for these guys to have 8 planes and live in a gigantic mansion and so forth. But no, they use that to say, look, because of my faith, I have this, not because I'm stealing your money. It's because of my faith. So you just don't have enough faith. You just got to believe harder and send me that money, and believe harder and send me some more money, and believe harder. And as you say, once you're on that treadmill, I don't know how you get off.
You know, when I was young and I lived in Arizona and had the Mormons pounding on my door trying to convince me to become a Mormon, I got to tell you this, though, there was only one thing that a 19-year-old kid maybe looked toward the Mormons. All the young women in Mormons, in the Mormon group, they were pretty fucking cute. But anyway, I would ask them hard questions, and they all answered the same way, same bullshit answer. I said, how do you know this is true? And they say, I feel a burning in my heart. You feel a burning in your heart. Well, I don't feel jack shit. Please explain to me this burning in your heart, because it sounds like a bullshit answer. And they could never answer that.
Right.
It's
Well, that's what it comes down to. There is no religion. There is no religion that is provable. You either accept it or you don't.
right,
But
exactly.
it cannot be proven. I'm sorry,
And the unfortunate thing with religions, this is why I don't belong to a church, is all those religions. Now, I'm not talking about God. I believe in God. I got all that. But the religions are all run by humans, fallible, tainted humans that get sucked in by power and money. And then they use that information to their advantage and they pervert it many times. And it's all about money and power at that point, which is the exact opposite of fucking God.
Oh, absolutely. And believe me, I know plenty of devout people, Jewish, Christian, a few Muslims, and even a Buddhist or two,
Yeah.
who I think are great people because of what they believe.
Right.
But I also know a lot of assholes
I know a lot
because of what
about,
they believe.
and
So it can go either way, but often if somebody talks to me about 10 commandments, I say, get out of here. I'm not interested in that. I know all about the 10 commandments, right? If you want to talk to me about the Sermon on the Mount, I'll listen because I buy that. I think it means something. The 10 commandments, I mean, most of them don't even apply. I'm sorry. They
well,
just don't.
and the
And,
ones that
honor your
apply,
father and mother. That's great. But
even the ones that apply are just fucking common sense. Thou shalt not kill. Yeah, no
right.
shit. No shit.
Unless it's war,
Yeah, then it's okay.
or somebody commits a crime that we think is particularly heinous, then it's okay to kill. So yeah, there's always cop outs, right?
Yeah.
Shall not bear false witness against their neighbor. They show me a politician who hasn't broken that one at least once a day
Yeah.
for their whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I say they don't apply. Number one, that's Moses. It's not Jesus. So if you're a Christian nation, which we're not, You should be listening, but you're talking about Jesus, not about Moses. If you're of the Jewish faith, or if you live in Israel, terrific. Talk about the Ten Commandments all you want to. But if you're a Baptist and you're laying the Ten Commandments on me, I'm just going to hold up my hand and say, I got no interest in that.
Right, right. Ed, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Of course, Ed is joining me today. A welcome relief after yesterday. And Ed, you wanted to talk about what's going on down in Florida with Judge Aileen Cannon. I know a lot of people are worried about that.
Well, with everything that's going on between, Israel and Hamas and so forth, and everything else, the New York case and so forth, people aren't paying as much attention. Right. But Jack Smith had asked that the defense be required to say what classified information they were going to be using by December, so they could figure out how to deal with it, because right. It's an issue, right? Well, instead of that, she gave in her ruling, she gave the defense until March. And because of the nature of working with classified information, I think there's 7 different sections that have to be dealt with and so forth. And there's no way this could be done in an effective manner so that the trial could begin in May, as was projected. Right. So it would not only would it interfere with a couple of other cases if it doesn't start in May, but it would drag on into the election, and possibly even many people see this as her idea to drag her feet, and that hopefully Trump would be elected, and then he would just direct the Justice Department to drop it, right? Which he could do, I suppose. But right. I mean, technically not. But if he's going to, they've already figured out this 2025 deal that they want to hit the ground running with all these replacements for everybody. So there wouldn't be any long drawn out process of having an attorney general or any of the other cabinet positions. He'd just name them day one and they'd go to work, turning this into a dictatorship, which is what's going on here. And right. Cannon is seeking to facilitate that, obviously. So Jack Smith now is being encouraged by many legal experts to go to the 11th Circuit and say, "Hey, get this woman out of my hair. She's obviously pulling for the defense, and she's trying to delay this trial so that it never really takes place."
Well, I think a lot of people were got a false sense of relief when Donald Trump's team went to Aileen Cannon and said, "We want to delay the trial more." And she said, "No, we'll just keep it in May." And what I think a lot of people don't understand is it would be more obvious, her bias, if she said, "Okay, let's just put it out till after the election." So what she's going to do is exactly what you're suggesting. Extend it in drips and drabs so it's not so obvious, or at least not obvious to her. So from December to March, we're talking about 3 months. Yeah. So that may put it out to August, and then something else comes out, then it puts it out to November. So right. That's what she's trying to do. And I think that Jack Smith is a smart guy. I think he's just kind of giving her enough rope to hang herself. And his intention from the beginning was to get her ass kicked out. He just needs enough evidence and enough reason to get the 11th Circuit to do it. I think that's coming ultimately.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I do think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think now that she has kind of shown her stripes, so to speak, by doing this, because as you say, if by extending that to March, there is no way that the trial could begin in May. and with appeals and so forth, and different things going on, they could very much push it down into November, at which point it becomes pretty much negligible. I personally don't think Donald Trump could get elected.
I don't either.
I have to believe that there are enough sane people left that won't happen, but it could. And that's what she's aiming for. She's doing everything she can to give that possibility a chance.
Right. Well, yeah, she is. And I agree with what you said wholeheartedly. I don't believe there's any possible way Donald Trump wins in 2024. Just not possible. Logic and common sense tell you otherwise. So that's really kind of a desperation Hail Mary move by Donald Trump. I got to tell you, if I've got 91 felonies against me and my only hope to survive is to be elected president, when in 2020 you lost by 7 million votes, you're running against the same guy, and you've done nothing to bolster your support, that is a fucking long shot, and it's not likely to happen.
Right. So we'll see what happens. I'm just hoping Jack Smith steps up and goes to the 11th Circuit. And if he does, I think they'll agree with him and say, no, we're going to set this schedule. And Eileen, we're taking you off the case, which they could do and they should do. People will scream, but so what?
Well, and the other part of it is, does it really matter? I mean, we know that the DC case is going to start in March. We know that will get over by the election. We know the lawsuit is going to be over in the next month or so. Even just those two things, he loses all his power, his money, and his property, and he gets convicted of felony charges in DC. That's enough to take him out of the picture. That's enough to take him out of the equation and put him away for, even if it's only 5 or 6 years. That's a long time for a guy who's 78, who's not mentally or physically healthy. We only need 1 or 2 convictions, as
I don't care if it's 6 months.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't care if it's 6 months. It takes him out. I cannot see independents, liberals, and sane Republicans voting for a guy in jail. I just can't see that. I could be wrong. We got a lot of trials, and they're getting them all to fit together and so forth is going to be a chore, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be done in a way that can get him out of the way. I don't care which one they convict him on or for how much or how long. Some folks have noticed that the can't remember her name, but the woman lawyer that sits next to him,
Alina Habba,
next to him, has been missing in action.
Yeah.
And some folks think that means she may be trying to negotiate some sort of plea deal. I would hope that's not the case, but maybe they're willing to do a plea deal. I'm not sure. It depends on the plea, I guess.
A plea deal for Donald or for herself?
For Donald. So instead of 250 million, maybe it's down to 100, something like that, maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
he's lost. Remember.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the penalty phase. The judge has already said you're guilty of sin. Now we're just deciding how much you're going to pay or what you're going to forfeit. Maybe he gets to keep his business license and pays $50 million. Maybe that's the upfront offer, and they come back and say, no, $250 million, and we get to beat him with a stick, whatever.
I just don't think Letitia James doesn't sound like the kind of person, at least in this situation, is looking to let Donald Trump off easy on this. I mean, there's a lot of factors to this. The money is one thing. The $250 million, I don't think it's going to go under that. I mean, I think Donald Trump and his legal team, if they have any brains at all, are realizing that it's going to be more than $250 million. If they settle for $250 million, I can't imagine Letitia James going less than that. But there's more. The more important factor of it is taking away his ability to do business in New York, taking away his business certificates, and putting everything into a receivership. That's as important as the fine, I think. Take him off the page completely for New York, take away his shit because he doesn't have 250 million cash reserves to bail himself out. So the property is going to have to be sold off.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, if I'm sure Letitia wants to nail him as much as possible, and the judge has ruled. Judge Erdogan has ruled that he committed fraud and his sons committed fraud, and now there's a penalty.
Right.
However, he also knows there will be an appeal. He doesn't want to get reversed. And the big argument that they have is there was no harm. Okay, he broke laws. He committed fraud, but the loans were paid back. Bloody bloody boom boom. Whatever. So the fraud did no real harm, is what they're saying. I'm not sure.
Well, it did do some harm, and I think they pointed that out. Because of the special treatment and the special terms he got, he saved $158 million that the banks would have normally charged. So I have
absolutely.
I have the feeling the banks look like that is harm.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not arguing it that there wasn't. That's their argument. Okay, is what I'm saying. And it is an argument that on appeal, maybe we don't know who the appeal person will, where the appeal will, who will hear the appeal, what the judge is involved and so forth. So Judge Erdogan and Letitia may say, well, it's better to get a fine of umpteen $1 million and he's barred in New York for maybe a certain period of time rather than forever. And then he has to forsake some property. That there may be a negotiation going on, which they can then reject, of course.
Right.
But we'll see. I guess it's a matter of, do you think that anything could happen on appeal that you're better settling for, but some kind of plea deal. But even a plea deal will ultimately, I think, bankrupt Trump, because I think he has far fewer assets than most people think he does.
No, I think so too. He doesn't have the cash. But the thing about it is one thing I learned about appealing this particular case, in order to appeal, say he's fined $250 million. Okay. If he wants to appeal that case, he's got to put that money up on that 250 before he makes the appeal. So it's already taking the impact. He can appeal all he wants, but he's going to be out 250 million or whatever the amount is. And he's not in a position to do it. So then again, we're back to selling shit off. But can he sell shit off because it's in receivership? He's fucked no matter what he does.
Well, and dude, how long are the lawyers going to go on not knowing if they're going to get paid or not? I'm surprised they're still there, to be honest with you.
I am too, unless he paid him up front a shitload of money. It's pretty interesting. Alina Habba, I got to tell you, I don't think there's a negotiation going on for a plea deal, because if there was going to be something like that, it wouldn't be that fucking bimbo. It would have been the other guy, Kais, who is his lawyer. Mm-hmm. I think Alina Habba, because some of the things she said, she's become a negative to Donald Trump. And I think that's why she's not there. I mean, Chris Kais is a notable lawyer. He was an inspector general in Florida. He's got a reputation, at least for now. And he hasn't said much. Alina Habba has been mouthing off all over the place. I have to think that, she's created a certain amount of friction between her and the judge. And I think they're just trying to take that off the table. I just don't think Letitia James is going to cut a deal. Why would she? Because the appeal aspect doesn't look good. And while the appeal is a nice thing for Donald Trump, it still takes him out of action while he's waiting the appeal. Takes money out of his pocket. He's fucked either way.
Yeah, we'll see. I still think they're going to nail him here, and they're going to nail him good. I just referenced that because that's what some people were saying, and you never know. The one thing I would want to touch on too was the other Republican candidates for president. Now, apparently Nikki Haley has ascended, and I think that's basically based on her one "you are scum" comment to Rama Smarmy. But she's looking tough. She's looking, she's up to 20% now.
Yeah.
And which is not bad, but I think everybody else might as well follow Tim and just drop out, because we know Christie's only there to poke Trump. Right. He's there to poke Trump. That's the only reason he's there, and he enjoys it. We can see that. Nobody's going to elect him president.
No.
Nobody's going to fund him to be president. I mean, and DeSantis. I mean, this is what gives me so much joy. I mean, I really despise this guy. And now, he's going to term out as governor now. He can't run for governor again. Right. I don't know if we'll ever see him again.
I don't think so.
He's gone. He's done as a presidential candidate. He might. I'm guessing he'll be the next one out, because Ramaswamy, of course, has his own money. He can stay in as long as he wants to. But I don't think DeSantis. I think DeSantis' backers are getting out. Disney's kicking his ass. Yeah. So I think we've seen this little pipsqueak do his best. And the only other thing I would say was I saw Donald Trump the other day saying, "I don't wear lifts," trying to put down DeSantis when we all know he does.
Yeah, he does. It's a big deal to him. That's why I like to refer to DeSantis as DeShoddy.
Yes.
But the thing about it is Nikki Haley, this is an interesting trend amongst Republicans. The reason Nikki Haley has any steam at all is because she comes off halfway normal, which is an interesting trend. Interesting trend in the Republican Party, because we know up to now, the last 7 years, they've gone just fucking freaked out radical. It's showing that there are some people in the Republican Party that are getting tired of Donald Trump and all those shenanigans. But we have to understand what the Republican Party is. At their heart, they're racist. At their heart, they're misogynist, anti-Semitic. And here's Nikki Haley, who's a woman, and a woman who happens to be of East Indian descent. Do you really think they're going to make her the candidate? I just don't fucking think so. She doesn't fit the template any more than Tim Scott would have been presidential nominee.
I'll be honest with you, if she was a little bit more liberal, even centrist, I think she could have a career ahead of her. Yeah, because liberals don't think that way. We elected Barack Hussein Obama, which the Republicans are always using that. They always use the three names, but they never refer to Nikki Haley by her real name, nor does she use it. No. Because she knows that there is an anti-immigrant bias in the Republican Party that will not allow her to be president. There's an anti-woman bias in the Republican Party that will not allow her to be president. So she might be vice and sneak in some way that way, but there's no way she would ever be the candidate for the party. I'm sorry, this is not going to happen. Even if Trump goes away, I'm not sure who will. The day Trump drops, you'll see another 40 candidates for a little while. Yeah. As everybody tries to rush in there. Right now, the smart ones are holding back because they know it's a waste of time. I mean, otherwise you'd see Ted Cruz, you'd see Romney again, probably. Who knows who else? Rubio, who kind of disappeared. Is he still alive? He's like, I think of like an old sitcom actor. You go, was he still alive? Really? Yeah.
I hear people talking about Chris Christie and Nikki Haley. Some Democrats saying, well, they seem kind of reasonable. You have short memories because both these guys were Trump humpers. Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, if you ever supported Donald Trump, you should never be in any political office ever again. And I don't think that's unreasonable. Chris Christie was Trump's buddy. Nikki Haley was Trump's bimbo ambassador. And I'm sorry if people take offense to me calling her that, but that's what she was. Um, the only thing about Nikki, I question her decision making. If I've got this East Indian name and I'm going to use an AKA, also known as, and I want to be a politician. Haley, okay, cool. Maybe that's her married name or whatever. But Nikki,
Yeah,
every time I hear the name Nikki, I only think of one thing. Prince's song, Darling Nikki. I
it's
knew a girl
true.
named
Yeah,
Nikki. Pick Emma or Mary
yeah,
or something. If you're gonna pick a
yeah.
name, pick something that's reasonable. And this is no shame to anybody in the audience that's named Nikki. I actually like the name, but if you're going to try to get credibility, and you're going to make up a name, make up something a little more. I don't know. I don't know. Nikki Haley has no chance. There is nobody in that group other than Donald Trump that has a chance of being uh, the nominee. And I think all of them are thinking the same things. We're just going to hang out here until Donald Trump goes to jail or keels over or just drops out, and then I'll have my day. And that's just not going to happen because I don't think any of Donald Trump's supporters, if Donald Trump is not the nominee, I think they just won't vote, which is cool.
I agree. I think you're right. Let's say let's say COVID came back with a vengeance. Okay, which it could, and both
Yeah.
Biden and Trump go down because of COVID.
Right.
I predict that in that case, you would have Newsom versus Sununu. Newsom wins. That's my prediction.
That could be, but don't you think that if Biden is not the nominee, and actually when he first won in 2020, I said I'd be surprised if Biden was the nominee because he's just too old. And now it seems, and as time went on, it seemed more apparent that he was going to try to run. But if Biden didn't run, wouldn't you think they'd almost have to go to Kamala first? I mean, just
Uh, it's happened before where the vice president didn't get the nomination. I think it would be a wide open field, and I do think that you would see Newsom stepping in. I think you might see Andy Bashir out of Kentucky, who's kind of on the rise, proving himself to be palatable to both
yeah,
Democrats and Republicans.
sure.
That's a big step in the right direction, right? Um, I don't think Kamala would get the nomination. I don't.
Yeah, and that's a shame too, because I think Kamala isn't a bad candidate. I think the Biden administration hasn't really showcased her enough, and I'm not sure
No, I don't
why.
either.
I think the best thing that could happen, honestly, Biden wins the presidency. All I want Biden to do is win the election, get to the inauguration, and then after that, whatever happens, happens. Because what I like about Kamala, she's more progressive. I mean, we don't want to go too crazy left, but Joe Biden is still a kind of a centrist, and he's still behind the times. He's still playing old time politics. Let's not get rid of the filibuster. Let's not expand the court. Well, we need to do both those things. And if he's got that mindset, then that troubles me for the next 4 years. But I just want the election won and him in place. And then if he decides to step aside or the worst happens, I have no problem with Kamala taking over. I think she could do the job just fine. And if she does a good job, and a lot of things are done, the worst thing in Republicans' mind could happen. Say Biden leaves after 2 years, Kamala takes over. Well, she can run for reelection 2 more times. She could
Yep.
theoretically be president for fucking 10 years.
And that's true. You know, if we're doing, I would accept that without any problem. You know, my wish list. I like Newsom. I like Andy
I
Bashir,
like
but I
Newsom
think it's
too.
time. I think it's time for a woman president, and I think the one that is kind of standing back, but you see her a lot, And you see her a lot more than probably a lot of other people do because she's from your state. She's
Right.
your senator. Amy Klobuchar
Yeah,
would
no,
make
she
an
would be a good choice.
outstanding president. And the other women that I like, that I would like to see in her administration, Katie Porter
Yep.
at Commerce, and Elizabeth Warren in there somewhere, maybe housing and urban development, something like that. I'd like to see a cabinet of women. That I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt had as much to do with crafting the most successful eras of American the American economy as her
Right.
husband did, and I think Hillary Clinton, history missed a great president in Hillary Clinton because they had 8-10 years to demonize her before the American public, and that's why she lost, because she should have won, and of course
Right.
there was Russian interference and everything else, but she should have been president. Well, we missed the boat on that. But we've got Amy Klobuchar, we've got Kamala Harris, we've got Katie Porter, we've got Elizabeth Warren. We have an embarrassment of riches so
Yeah.
far as women go, and I think they would do a better job. Having said that, though, I'll still vote for Joe Biden as many times as he wants to run, because he was not my first choice by any means.
Right.
But I do think that he beat Trump simply because he was seen as a centrist, and some Republicans could stomach him, independents could stomach him, and Democrats could be, if not enthusiastic about him, they could get behind him. And he proved himself to be the most effective president since LBJ,
Right.
and in some ways more effective because he didn't have the war hanging around his neck.
Right.
But at this juncture, I got to say, Joe was the man for the times, and
Absolutely. He was the right guy.
he was the right guy, and he's still the right guy for me, because if you stand him next to Trump, Trump looks like a bucket of lard, and Joe looks like a fit man.
Yeah.
You put him on the bicycle, he can ride down the road. Yeah, get Trump on a bike and see what happens.
Yeah. I don't think that would go well. You know, one of the things that concerned me about Katie Porter is she's in the House. She's in the House, right? And she wants to run for the
Right,
California seat in the Senate. But then so does Adam Schiff.
right.
So both are valuable people to have in the House, but we're going to lose one of them. We're going to lose Katie
Yeah,
Porter or Adam Schiff. One's going to be in the Senate. So I can only presume that whoever loses that is going to end up in the cabinet for Joe Biden after the
yeah.
2024 election. There's no way you can leave those people sitting on the sidelines. And frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't been done already. The fact that Tracy Abrams isn't in the mix
Yeah,
someplace, that's a fucking tragedy.
she's got to be.
She's got to
Yep,
be. She may be the
she
most
should be in.
she may be the most up and coming politician in this country.
I supported her over Kamala. I don't know why. That maybe it was the Asian American thing there. Um, Sometimes I think you can overbalance. I mean, Tracy did the work. Tracy gave Joe Biden the Senate.
Right. Right. Exactly.
He should have been more great. He should have been more grateful.
Absolutely. The fact that she's not in office someplace is a shame, and I hope she gets her due. I mean, frankly, if given the chance to do some things, I think she could clearly be an excellent presidential candidate.
Absolutely, she has shown. She's shown me that she has savvy. She has guts. She has the work ethic, if you will, to get it done.
Right.
All of these women have. I mean, I love to watch Katie Porter tear apart a CEO and
Right.
leave them as a pool of scum on the floor, which she does on a regular basis
No,
because she does her homework. This is an intelligent woman who knows where to find the answers. She digs them up and then she beats them over the head with them.
there's one other possible presidential candidate in 2028, and it depends on how it goes. But assuming the Democrats get the House in 2024, Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker of the House. And if they keep it in 2026, come 2028, Hakeem Jeffries might be a serious candidate for president. And I would support him too.
I would support him too. I think he might even be stronger than Obama. And certainly would have the exposure. And in a pinch, if it comes down to it, I'm not saying that I want it, but if they draft me, I'm ready to serve.
Well, with Hakeem Jeffries, I always
kidding.
Yeah, I know you're kidding. I wouldn't serve. But Hakeem Jeffries, I've said this before, Hakeem Jeffries is like Obama. Excuse me. He's like Obama, but with a big stick.
Yeah.
God damn, this cold. I hate him.
You got a cold, I got allergies. We're a pair. There's more mucus here on this podcast than there is in the rest of the country.
People say to me, "Oh, you're so courageous being sick and still doing the podcast." I explained to them back in the day when you and I were working together, and I was a traffic reporter, and I had nobody to back me up. You work with me sick a lot.
Yeah. We both did. I mean, you were more critical than I. There were a few people who could come in and do it, but I think I missed maybe. I never called in sick. I called in the day before and said, I don't think I'm going to make it in tomorrow. But I never called at 4 a.m, called my program director and said, I'm too sick to come in. Never did that.
Well, and that's the thing is 4 a.m, who am I going to call? Since there's nobody to back me up at the time. And that's what I always complained about. Well, I tell you what, we're going to wrap things up. I appreciate you coming in. It's a welcome relief to what we went through yesterday. And we'll see what happens this week. Hopefully we continually get some good news and we get some resolutions to some of the bullshit we've got going on.
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, we made it through the First World War. We made it through the Great Depression. We made it through the Second World War. We made it through COVID. We'll get through this too. I just hope we get through it in a stronger position to serve, to keep America for what it's supposed to be, and that is a flourishing democracy, a republic that that serves everyone equally. We need to keep working on that because we're not there yet, folks.
No, we got a long way to go, and we need to keep up with it and get some shit straight. And I think we're on the right track. I think we're trending the right way. So I'm not really worried about it. Every little thing that comes up, people go, "Oh my God, that's Armageddon." I'm a firm believer in trusting in faith. We're headed the right way. Not everything happens the way we want it, but if we just stay the course and keep pushing, we'll get to where we got to be eventually. So I think we'll be good.
I agree.
All right, we are going to wrap things up for yet another Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank Ed for joining us today. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.